and happy last Wednesday of June. I hope your day is going well so far for all of those people who it is not 8:30 in the morning right now and who have already gotten their day started. As always, we have our sponsors and supporters to give a special shout out to, so I will give it on to Dan.
Good morning, Sha.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm present today.
I'm glad to see that. I appreciate that you being present today. Thank you, God, for allowing her to be present. Before we get started, I'd like to always thank everybody that's continued to support us and continue to spread the chats, as well as a Hefe Lifestyle. And before we get started, again, I'd like to give a specific sponsorship they're due, because without them and without you, it would be no show. So Changing Lives at Home, Green Veteran Donation Center, JAlicejewels.com, HefeHead.com, LACruiser.com, PremierTagAndTitle.com, KnottedTogether.com, and last but not least, Synergy.com. Thank y'all again for your continued support, and for all the people we don't see live that are tuning in. Appreciate y'all. What's up, Sha? What's going on in your mind today?
Lots.
Hey, good morning, Miss Tanisha Allen. What's going on? Oh, look at that.
Oh, Cousin Wendy, good morning.
Good morning. So, oh boy, you're going to have to bring it this morning. What's on your mind?
Well, as always.
First of all, it's good seeing you.
You too,
It
Dad.
seems like I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, you're just too busy for me these days.
Look who's calling the kettle black.
Just, can't get a hold of you. Gotta go through assistants and stuff, It's a tough world out here, fam.
So what's up on your mind today, babe?
Well, lots, but specifically, accountability versus responsibility. I know we talked about accountability, briefly previously.
Mm-hmm.
However, my first question is, well, could you define the two of them? And then the part two question to you defining them is, are they the same?
Okay. I think they are similar from what I remember. Wendy, Cuzzo, please chime in on this, because I know you have a lot of accountability and responsibility to talk about. Accountability is when you personally had to carry out some duties. Responsibility is more, to me, is more based on your response as a duty come about. That's what I'm coming up with.
Okay.
Am I close? Am I right? Am I somewhere? Please help out. Holding yourself accountable
is required or expected to justify actions or decisions responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so they are synonyms?
I don't know if they're synonyms. Give me 1 second.
No, because you're going slow today.
Responsibility is, the internet only works but so fast.
Oh.
The state of or having a duty to deal with something or of having control over someone. And then it says that there is a difference between the two of them, but accountability can be responsibility and can be shared, while accountability cannot.
Okay. See, again, you always want to pick something, but I like it because I don't believe. So what would you like to talk about? First of all, I apologize. What aspect of it would you like to talk about? Because you always pick a subject matter I like it. It has a lot of meat to it, as they call it, quote unquote.
Well, I guess specifically, are we holding ourselves accountable and being responsible in the communities that we are
presently living in,
or that we what is the word that we identify with?
Okay. In what aspect? Because that's broad. Personally, do I feel I'm being accountable and responsible as a person? I think so. I'm trying, because every day I wake up and then I try to learn something new to better not only myself, but to better the people around me, and particularly my children. And then it goes from young adults now, but then it goes further on, and then trying to better my family. Then I try to better my community, and then I try to better, the state from which I'm in. By doing my part, trying to be responsible. I'll give you an example. This is a small example, but this is how I try to be accountable. Not throwing trash out on the highways, or dumping trash anywhere because somebody else got to clean it up. Now, to most people, that doesn't mean anything. But to me, it means a lot because now I'm trying to face my neighborhood and make it a better place. I give you another example, and this is a small example, and this is how I always feel making up my bed in the morning. Now, a lot of people don't make up their bed, and a lot of people do. However, I feel that that's my first accomplishment for the day. So I'm feeling accountable. Now, and if I don't accomplish nothing else all the rest of the day, I feel responsible and accountable that I made up my bed this morning.
That's very small. That's a nice thing.
You see, but most people don't look at it. And again, people have a right to look at life the way they choose to look at life, and the eye and their POV point of view is on them. But that's how I view. So every morning, as you know, I have a routine. So I try to be accountable to this routine and do my responsibility with this routine. So that's one of the ways I think I'm being accountable. Have I not always been accountable? Absolutely. Have I destroyed myself, my family, in my neighborhoods, in other communities around this United States and places? Absolutely. With the choices that I thought were being accountable choices at the time. But I was being irresponsible. Most people are not going to say that. You know, a lot of people not going to agree with that, and they have a right not to agree with it. But I felt that I was being reactive than being proactive with being responsible. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. So my question then is, is there a measuring tool that measures like the accountability and responsibility within the community that you're belonging in?
I think people have put tools in place, but also I think it's innate in you, some things.
Okay.
You know, and I think sometimes we put tools in place, and for me, and this is just for me, people, I think we are often looking at the wrong leadership to be accountable and responsible. Meaning, I think it should actually start with you as being accountable. And then you can then hold people responsible if you're being accountable. Like we want to hold our politicians responsible. We want to hold our mom, our dad, our friends, everybody responsible for a lot of times with things, but never holding ourselves responsible or accountable at all.
So we're like saying that these people should be responsible and held accountable for X, Y, Z, but not like.
But you're not living up to the same standard as that, in my opinion. Not everybody, but a lot. So they say, oh, I give you example. Can I give you an example?
Yes.
All right. And people, again, these views expressed are necessarily the views of the sponsorship. Now, we keep crying that, and when I say we, collectively through what I've read, what I've talked about with other people, police brutality.
Okay.
Right? Police brutality. But we not want to focus on what about the brutality we causing each other on a regular basis in our own communities. We keep talking about it, and don't get me wrong, police brutality does exist. I've been a victim of it myself. I've been victimized from it myself. However, when do we hold our next door neighbor, little Johnny, responsible for going out there causing havoc in this community? Or when do we hold Susie? And these are made up people names, people. I don't want anybody to get on the air looking for me in that capacity. But when do we start holding us accountable and responsible? Yes, does police brutality happen? We all agree. We see films and films of it. But what about the senseless murders that we continue to commit in our own communities, people? And that's not a policeman killing you. Is another one of us, people of color, in this particular sentiments that I'm talking. And does crime on crime happen in other ethnicity? Absolutely. I know it happened, and the only reason I don't have more facts in front of me, people, is because my daughter, and we like this format, she likes to speak from her heart and whatever comes on her mind. So I don't have the actual statistics and stats to give you personally. But one thing I tell anybody, don't believe me, look it up yourself. So what I mean by that is we keep wanting to hold these people, in particular the police department, responsible for all these senseless deaths. Yes, we should hold them responsible, but we need to hold our next door neighbor even more responsible when an older woman cannot come out of her, or a young child cannot come out their house and play. guys out there, the real men out there, please start taking back our communities because we're running ourselves amok, in my opinion. That's my opinion. That's not a fact, and people can agree or disagree. But when will we be accountable? I know you turn accountable and responsibility, but you know how I go off to
You're fine.
Okay, thank you. So when will we hold ourselves accountable for our actions in our own community? Yes, I'm held myself accountable. I paid the price for what I chose was the right thing to do. Come to find out, is a sucker bet when you look at it in its totality. Yes, a lot of gangsters out there not going to agree with me. A lot of street guys, thugs, whatever adjective you want to put on the back of your name. But first of all, you should be a man first and responsible and accountable second, in my opinion. Right? And I wasn't always that. I'm still striving to become more accountable and more responsible as I get older in the days that God grant me on this here earth. However, we keep wanting to blame people. Oh, the politician, the police department, this department. Why not look at your next door neighbor? Because that's a lot of the people that's in some community is causing this vast majority of the havoc, in my opinion. How do you feel about that? Do you believe that our communities we look for the politicians for help. We look for the pastor for help. We look for all these other outside people for help. But do we need to look internally for more help within ourselves and being more accountable as well as being responsible? Is that too much? Or not that it's too much because your brain is big enough to handle it. That's a shout out. Saba.
That was shots fired. Well, I think the easy answer is yes. However, I feel that selfishness is a very innate thing for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So it's more of, well, how does this benefit me versus how is it benefiting everyone? Which is why there's a lot of time, a separation within a community.
Hey, okay, so that's what you feel.
I mean, sometimes I think that it's hard to like generalize or be like, this is what it should be in X, Y, or Z. But I do think that, yes, as a member, once you claim to be a part of a community or you're born into the community, you're still part of that community, and you should be responsible for the members of your community, whether or not it's someone that you personally know
or
or someone who is just like an acquaintance, but you still acknowledge them as part of your community. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I do think, I think that we should be holding each other accountable for protecting and uplifting our community, but at the same time, having to understand that not everyone shares the same viewpoints as you do.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if the word would be like educating them or like maybe enlightening them on a different way to look, right. Because I think a lot of times there's a divide that happens within a community at one point in time. And at that point, it's, well, how do you get rid of the divide and come together within the community, because your community is your community. So
finding a common ground for all to exist in the same community while uplifting the community, that would be a great tool. Yes, because now, to me, it's getting senseless out here, the number of unnecessary murders that are occurring. And those guys that participate or women that participate in it, I continue to pray, because you are victimizing somebody else's family as well. And then your family potentially can become victimized from your actions to someone else. And again, I don't have all of resolve, but one resolve I do know that work is take 1 minute and think. Take 1 minute to say, is this really worth the path that I'm going down to? Because oftentimes it's not. In my opinion, it's not worth it. And I think if we take more breathing methods instead than more fighting methods, I think we can then potentially get a better outcome. Because believe me or not, people, that is someone else's family member. You might not agree with it, and we all connected, no matter how you want to say it, because we can't do one thing without the other, and no one person is an island on their own. Even though people always say they self-made, I made myself, I did this. No, you didn't. You had help, including me. Because if you look at the totality of it, you can't be in every place at one time to accomplish the things that you'll potentially accomplish. That's just plain and simple. You can all take that to Apple, because they go over to China. That's enough, Saba. I'm sorry.
Oh my
But I apologize. You know how I get, babe. But I'm just saying, so we really need to start taking deep breaths, in my opinion. I think we need to change our mindset. No, again, I don't have all the answers. I don't believe Shy has all the answers because I can't speak for you. But I know that we need to stop having a lot of, and I'm pulling this on. I know we talking about, again, responsibility, accountability.
Well, it is still that.
But I'm getting sick and tired of every time I get on the news, somebody senseless have been killed. And I know some people say, oh, it wasn't in their eyesight. But when you look at it over the bigger picture, most of y'all can't afford your own lawyer. You're going to get a public defender. I'm gonna call it what I call it. Y'all could be mad at me. Y'all could be upset. Most of y'all can go with a public defender. You can't afford your own lawyer when you get in trouble. Your so-called fans and families, the ones that looked up to you and admire you, 90% of them not going to come to your rescue. So now you're left alone for an act that you could potentially stop on your own because you had the last deciding factor when it came to pulling that trigger or to pulling that knife on an individual. And then most of y'all can't even shoot the gun properly. Y'all shooting people that have nothing to do with the act that you're trying to commit. So think about that. And I'm not condoning any of that behavior. And I hope y'all don't think I'm condoning that behavior that's watching the show. All I know is we must stop killing ourselves first. And then we can then truly then hold the police department accountable, in my opinion. Then we can really hold them to a standard that we have set within our own community to continue to uplift our own community in that manner. That's just my personal take on it. And again, people feel free to chime in, give me any input, inbox me. I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to listen. I know that for a fact. And I'm willing, if possible, to help any situation as long as it's leading to a better situation for the masses of the people. Because I'm tired of going to senseless funerals. I was going to so many funerals when I was younger. I thought that was the norm. Somebody even made a post out that now funerals are turning to actual daytime parties. That saddens me.
That's awful.
That's sad. You know, one of the Facebook quotes.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not shouting out nobody's name on that, but that really saddened me when we have now taken a resting point. And again, in New Orleans, they do party. They do have, in other places, they have parties for the passing because it's a celebration. But are we really celebrating that person that passed away? And what are we doing to help their legacy in a positive manner? Because so many of these senseless murders, in my opinion, come from not thinking, not willing to take the moment to say, hey, you know, that's somebody else's mother, that's somebody else's son, that's somebody else's daughter, that's somebody else's cousin. And most of the time, in my opinion, from what I've learned, it's really senseless because the things that potentially was taken away can be replaced.
Except the person.
Except the person. And I don't think we view ourselves as precious cargo enough. I think we view ourselves more in a slave mentality. And I know I'm going deeper, but I believe that we have embarked in a Willie Lynch syndrome to a degree, and we have embarked on ourselves as being an object.
Can you define what that syndrome is?
That syndrome, it was a syndrome, it was a thing set up by a man named Mr. Willie Lynch that he told the slave owners and people that wanted to own other people that he would have this method put in place and that they will not regard themselves as being humans. Mm. Yeah, that's the brief of it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the brief of it. And you can use this method 400 years from now if you keep implementing it on their spirituality as well as their mentality. So to me, we're still acting under those principles as collectively. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we can get from under that and then move forward in a more spiritual aspect of really loving, compassionate. And when that happens, you then become vulnerable. And a lot of people don't want to become vulnerable because we were taught not to be vulnerable because that's a sign of weakness.
Do you think that's a subconscious thought or the syndrome that you're talking about?
Well, I think
people like know that they could be suffering from that.
Some people do, some people don't. Some people don't want to get the necessary help because, you know, like I said, and we always talk on topics because we all circle topics that in our communities back then, if you were sought to go get any type of mental health, you was considered crazy. You know, and most people didn't want that type of label placed upon them in that manner, so they didn't seek help. But like I try to tell anybody, if you can seek physical help, meaning build your body up and whatnot, why not receive mental help to keep your mind going in a sharp pace and moving forward? Because with your mental comes everything, because your body can be stand still, you know. But if you have the mental capacity to move forward with ideas and subjects, you can. Your body can't move forward. When a person completely paralyzed? But they're
quadriplegic.
Yeah, something like. But their head can still talk and they can still communicate with you, but they can't move none of their functions and whatnot. You know, they need help in that whole capacity.
Yeah.
Right. So with that being stated, I know as you said, we do need to change our mindset. And mental awareness, like Troy just said, is extremely important. Mental health awareness, we talk about it all the time. And people, when we know better, we must start doing better, honestly. And it saddens me that I get so many phone calls from, in my opinion, unnecessary murders of people. Unnecessary murders of people. And let's take a minute to think about it. All those so-called leaders out there, gangsters, take back the streets that you say they're yours. Most of y'all don't own a real estate on these blocks anyway, if you really think about it. I'm being honest. A lot of y'all don't even own the house that you hustle out of. And I'm not trying to downgrade the hustle or upset the hustle. I'm just sharing with, use the tool to better the situation if you want to use the tool. If these are tools that would allow it to you, use those tools to better your situation. But we always saying we own this, we own that. And when you look at down in City Hall, we don't own nothing. We claim these blocks and blocks after blocks. And when I really realized it, damn, I don't own nothing. I have a lot of possessions, but I don't own nothing. Let that marinate on people for a minute. How about that?
Okay.
Let them marinate on for a minute.
God.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Sha. I'm just get passionate people, and anybody that know me personally or getting to know me through chats, you'll understand that I really want to make a difference. I really want to help the massive people, because as we continue to go, the 1% gets smaller, the 99% get bigger, and that's a vast gap between us. I know people say, oh, vote for this politician, vote for that politician, and a lot of them mean well when they get in the office. However, they own a cog that is what they own. So they can't themselves change it by themselves, because there's other people that's elected as well that might have a different mindset. But if we get the people mindset change on a smaller level, then we can eventually, in my opinion, change it on a bigger level. But we must start loving yourself first. I try to put all types of quotes, open awareness quotes. I don't really go with the picture game on this site, because I'm not into pictures as it relates to bettering us. If it were better people, I would post as many pictures as possible. But I'm tired, people, of us complaining and not truly taking accountability and responsibility. Do I fall short in this area at times? Absolutely. But when we're doing a scale of 100, I try to be 90% or more accountable. If I could be 100% accountable and responsible, I would. But as I stated earlier when we first started this podcast, I'm a work in progress. I believe my daughter's a work in progress, and we're not going to always be 100% of anything. I don't think. I know I'm not. And the days I wake up, I don't want to do anything. But on that same token, I wake up, I meditate, and then I ask the higher power than I to get me moving for that day. And this basic day is a blessing. I know people want these things, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have these things. Because if I rule the world, everybody have everything they want except for hurting each other.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, Sha, any closing remarks before we go?
No.
Besides that, I love you.
I'll love you too, Dad.
We need to say that more. Give me a hug real quick. Because I ain't saying to you. I'm sorry, people.
As always, guys, thank you for tuning in, and please feel free to leave your comments after we go off the air, because we are still always here for you. Continue to have an amazing day. This is the last week of June. Next month, as of Monday, is July. So I hope that you are sticking to those New Year's resolutions or the weekly resolutions that you have set for yourself, and we will see you next time.
Peace.